Do you really believe that to earn more money, you need to work more? What if I told you that's the biggest lie you've ever been told? In fact, the more you work, the less you earn. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But listen, you weren't programmed to be wealthy. You were taught to survive. Now, what if I could show you how to reprogram your mind to attract money as easily as you attract bills? For years, I wondered why some people seem to attract money effortlessly, while others, like I used to, live on the edge, drowning in debt, working more than they should, and still barely able to breathe. And do you know what's most troubling? Most of these people are smart, hardworking, and worthy. But despite that, they stay stuck in the same cycle. The problem was never a lack of effort. The problem is that no one taught us that there's an invisible program running in the background of our minds, a paradigm. And this paradigm, which lives in the subconscious, determines exactly how much you believe you can earn and how much you actually earn. When someone says, "As soon as I pay one bill, another one shows up," they're not just describing life, they're revealing a mental pattern that governs their results. They vibrate at the frequency of lack, and the universe, which responds to vibration, not desire, simply sends more of the same. This paradigm starts forming before you're even born. Yes, that's right. It begins during pregnancy with what your mother heard, experienced, and felt. Then it's reinforced during childhood. Money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think you are? You can't have everything in life. You absorb and absorb until one day you find yourself living out these beliefs. But it's not your fault. It's not about intelligence or ability. It's about mental programming. And like any program, it can be changed. But it must be exposed, because until you become aware of it, you'll keep living on autopilot, repeating the same story with different dates. Most people fear change. They think, what if it doesn't work? But what if it does? What if you're just one adjustment away from an entirely different life? I've lived it. I had no degree. I was in debt. Every day was a battle. Until one day, in a moment of deep despair, I decided I couldn't go on like this. That's when I started studying how the mind works. I discovered that the subconscious doesn't distinguish between truth and repetition, and that changed everything. I began repeating new ideas daily, affirmations, visualizations, emotion-filled thoughts. At first, it felt silly. It felt like I was lying to myself. But I kept going, and little by little, my vibration changed. People around me shifted. Opportunities began to appear, and when it finally clicked, I was making more in a single month than I used to make in a year, and without exhausting work. Now, let me ask you, how many times have you ended the month unsure how to pay everything? How many times have you felt like your money just disappears? This isn't random. It happens because your paradigm is set to repel money the moment it arrives. You might attract some amount, but if the paradigm is one of scarcity, it will find a way to make that money vanish. The good news? This can be reversed. You can start right now. Stop and think. What phrases did you hear most about money growing up? Write them down. Then ask yourself, is this absolutely true? Or is it just a repetition of what others believed? Your mind was trained to operate within limits, but it can also be trained to expand. When you change what's in the subconscious, what's in your bank account begins to reflect that. It doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is what you decide to accept as true from this moment forward. If you commit to changing that paradigm, everything around you will begin to change. Not instantly, but constantly. Start small. One phrase, one thought, one daily visualization, and don't stop. Because what you think, feel, and believe right now is shaping the level of abundance you allow into your life. And you deserve far more than you've accepted so far. Have you noticed that the things you fear most are often the things that happen most? Constant worry about not having enough money, not being able to pay bills, losing your job, or not getting that raise. And no matter how hard you try to avoid those things, they keep showing up. That's not coincidence, it's attraction. What you feel with intensity and believe deeply, you attract. You might wish to be rich, but if deep down you feel fear, lack, or unworthiness around money, that's what you'll continue to manifest, because your true vibration isn't in what you say, it's in what you constantly feel, even when no one is watching. You see, everything in the universe is energy. Me, you, money, objects, thoughts. All of it vibrates at a certain frequency, and the universe responds to your frequency, not your wishes. So if you think about wealth but feel it's far, unlikely, or difficult, guess what? You're tuning into difficulty, and you'll attract more obstacles. When I realized this, everything changed. I understood I didn't need to chase money. I needed to become the kind of person who attracts it like a magnet. And to do that, I had to align my thoughts, feelings, and actions with what I wanted to attract. You probably know someone who seems lucky in everything, lands deals, finds opportunities, gets help at the right moment. And you also know people who work incredibly hard, but something always goes wrong. Is that bad luck? No, it's vibration. One of the clearest examples I've ever seen was Jim Carrey. Before he became famous, he was broke. Yet every day, he would drive to a hill overlooking Los Angeles and imagine being a successful actor. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services and kept it in his wallet. Years later, he received that exact amount for a movie. He didn't just dream, he felt as though it was already real, and the universe responded. But understand, this isn't magic, it's science applied with unwavering belief. Neuroscience shows that the brain doesn't distinguish between real and intensely imagined, and quantum physics has already proven that the observer affects reality. When you imagine with emotion, your brain forms new connections, your body shifts frequency, and you begin moving, even unconsciously, toward what you want. The problem is, most people visualize with fear, doubt, or disbelief. They ask for a better life, but at the same time sabotage it by thinking, "This isn't for me. I don't know how it's possible. That's for rich people." And the universe replies, "Okay, it's not for you." You need to understand this once and for all. You don't have to know how it will all happen. You just have to align your vibration with what you want and follow the impulses that arise. The path builds itself as you walk it. But if you keep vibrating fear, you'll attract only what keeps you afraid. I've had moments when everything felt lost, business failing, bills unpaid. And instead of panicking, I closed my eyes and imagined everything already solved. I forced myself to feel gratitude for things that hadn't even arrived yet. And that shifted my vibration. I felt calm, confident, and answers came, sometimes in forms I never could have predicted. You have that power. It doesn't matter how much debt you're in. It doesn't matter if you have nothing in your pocket. What matters is what you choose to feel and believe from this moment forward, because the universe responds to your vibration, not your bank statement. Try this exercise. Before sleep tonight, breathe deeply, close your eyes, and imagine your life exactly as you want it to be. Picture it in detail. Feel it, touch it, live it in your mind. Stay in that frequency for 5 minutes each day. Soon you'll start noticing subtle changes. A call, an idea, an incredible coincidence. These are signs. Follow them. Because when you change your vibration, reality has no choice. It must change too. In society, there's a deeply rooted belief that to earn more, you must work more. It's repeated so often, it became an unwritten rule of life. But think seriously. How many people do you know who work hard, wake up early, go to bed late, and still struggle financially? And how many do you see living with more freedom, earning more, and not rushing through life like it's a never-ending race? It's not coincidence. It's the result of two completely different ways of thinking. One is based on physical effort and survival. The other on mental awareness and vibrational harmony. The real game isn't who works more. It's who thinks better, who vibrates correctly, who understands that money isn't the result of sweat. It's the result of clarity, mindset, and aligned choices. And here's the key. You can earn more by doing less if you work with intelligence and strategy. Not just T-body. Think about millionaires. Most of them have multiple sources of income, not just one job. They invest, create assets, build systems that work even while they sleep. They understand that wealth is in flow, not force. Most people, though, are programmed to think linearly. More hours equals more money. But that has a limit. Your time is limited. Your body is too. If you keep trying to produce money through effort alone, you'll hit a ceiling. But when you shift your focus to how to think, how to decide, how to position yourself, you begin noticing opportunities that were always there, but invisible. You start acting differently, and that mindset shift changes everything around you. That's what I did. I stopped chasing money and started learning how wealthy people think, decide, and behave. I adapted that to my own reality. The result? I started attracting ideas, people, and paths that had never appeared before. Not because they didn't exist, but because I wasn't vibrating at the level to see them. If you're out there exhausted, thinking the only way out is to work harder, take this invitation. Start thinking about different ways to create value. Maybe a talent you've set aside, a hobby that could become income, a connection you could develop, a new skill you could learn, instead of doing overtime at something that drains you. Pause for a moment. Look around. The world is full of people living with more freedom and abundance because they chose to think differently. And the harshest stories I know are from people who, despite having degrees and stability, remain unhappy because they believe that's just how life is supposed to be. But no one is born just to make a living. We are born to live, truly live. And that starts the moment you stop believing that the only way to succeed is to sacrifice yourself to the point of exhaustion. You can create income streams with ease. You can attract inspired ideas. You can earn more money for fewer hours. But to do that, you must adopt a new paradigm. Your value is not in your physical effort. It's in your ability to imagine, to decide, and to act consciously. You don't have to keep doing more and more to receive less and less. You just need to take one step. Start working with your mind, not against it. Because the mind is the real field where wealth is planted. And if you learn how to cultivate it, abundance will grow from every direction. You ever notice how sometimes you start something new with all the enthusiasm in the world, but after a few days, you just stop? Whether it's a new financial goal, a savings plan, starting a business, beginning to invest, or changing careers. At first, you're excited. You feel that it's going to work. But suddenly, something inside you begins to doubt, to procrastinate, to make excuses. And before you know it, you're back where you always were. As if something invisible pulled you back into your old reality. Do you know what that is? It's your subconscious. It doesn't want you to be wealthy. It doesn't want you to change. It wants you to stay exactly where you are. Because to the subconscious, change means risk. And it's been programmed to protect, not expand. The problem is that this protection has turned into sabotage, and most people don't even realize it. The subconscious doesn't work with logic. It works with habits, emotions, and repetition. It records patterns from childhood and executes them automatically every day. If these patterns say money is hard, wealth is for a few, or you're not capable, then that's what you'll experience, no matter how badly you want the opposite. So reading books or watching prosperity videos isn't enough. You might even feel motivated for a while, but if your internal paradigm doesn't change, your reality won't change either. It'll be like spritzing perfume on dirty clothes. For a moment, it smells different, but underneath, the odor remains the same. That's what I realized when, after years of personal growth, I hit those moments when everything seemed stuck. I had the knowledge, the technique, the strategy, but something invisible still limited me. An old, quiet, yet powerful pattern. At that moment, I decided to take on a real challenge, reprogram my subconscious mind. I remember one specific night. I was alone, and I started hearing my own mind say I'm not good enough, that this is too big, that maybe I should give up. All the voices of limitation I heard all my life gathered there in one moment. But instead of fighting them, I sat down, closed my eyes, and began softly repeating, I thrive, I am worthy, I am capable. I repeated it again and again until my body stopped trembling, until the tears of doubt turned into peace, until I felt something inside me begin to shift. And since then, I have never been the same. Not because everything changed overnight, but because I changed. And that inner change began to change the results I got from the world. And then the world began responding differently to me. The subconscious is too powerful to ignore. It controls up to 95% of your decisions. It determines what you see as opportunity, what you fear, what you avoid, and even what you attract. So if you want to change your life, you cannot do it by willpower alone. You need emotional and conscious repetition. You need to feed your mind with new images, new words, new feelings every day, even when it seems like nothing is changing. And I know that at first it will feel strange. It will feel like you're lying to yourself. But that's exactly the signal that the process is working, because your old self will resist. It will try to pull you back, and then you must keep going. Visualize, affirm, believe, until your subconscious accepts the new story. Real transformation doesn't happen outside, it happens within. It's quiet, it's invisible, but when it happens, the whole world begins to reorganize around you. New people appear, new ideas arise, new paths open. So if you want to rewrite your financial story, start here. Observe the thoughts that repeat inside you. Question the beliefs you've always taken as absolute truths. Replace voices of doubt with words of affirmation. Imagine your ideal life every day, even if it seems distant. Because the more you repeat it, the more your subconscious will take it in. And once it takes it in, it will act in your favor, not against you. This is the key that few have the courage to use, but whoever uses it will never be the same again. You don't attract what you wish for, you attract what you are. And that means as long as your mind continues to operate in old paradigms, no matter how hard you strive, the results will remain the same. But the moment you decide to reprogram your internal vibration, everything around you begins to reorganize.